snuck through here before you said. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda as presented.
A second.
Motion Derby and second for Smith to approve minutes and agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Want to go on to something else here quick?
Number 3.
Scott Minders, engineer, will discuss secondary road matters.
You only have to do the 9 o'clock.
Well,
She's not
Kelsey's not here.
Oh, okay.
Well, our microsurfacing project is moving along. They're still working on kind of the R74 area up toward Rice Lake. I think they're doing some intersections today, and they'll be there for a few more days, and then they'll move up to Scarville and that area. It's going well. And that's about all I got.
Anybody else got anything for secondary roads?
I did see, I think it was Kevin Rauch looking at that stop sign.
Yeah, he called me on it and said that you could visit with him if you wanted, but it's a DOT stop sign, DOT responsibility, so
Okay.
up to them to decide.
I'll go that direction then.
Okay, nothing else for secondary roads. We'll go back to number 2. 9 a.m. possible closed session to discuss matters in litigation or where litigation is imminent with counsel pursuant Iowa Code Section 21.51C.
Do you have your cheat sheet?
Let's see, so the stuff that's highlighted, I have to say, is that it?
I can't remember without looking at it.
And possible closed session to discuss.
So number 4.
Is it my understanding that legal counsel requests that this matter proceed in closed session? Is that correct, Kelsey?
Yes.
The discussion with legal counsel to discuss strategy regarding matters that are presently in litigation or litigation is imminent, and its disclosure would likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of Winnebago County in that litigation. Okay, I move that the discussion with legal counsel be made in closed session, as the purpose of this discussion will be to discuss strategy with legal counsel regarding matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, and its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of Winnebago County in that litigation. So I guess that was my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by John Holt, second by Derby, to move into closed session. All in favor say aye.
Wait, roll call.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to say,
Smith?
Aye.
Derby?
Aye.
Jinsvold?
Aye. Okay.
And I am going to request that Scott remain. It's an issue that does involve Secretary Rowe's department, and he'll have more information.
It has been moved to hold a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.51C, and the members of the board have voted unanimously to hold closed session. Does it have to be unanimous?
That's
Because up here it says 2/3.
No, it's 2/3. It's probably a 2/3.
But
But
then down here
I
it
don't know
says-
that we've ever, since I've been here, I don't think we've ever had one that hasn't been.
Yeah,
unanimous.
but
So that's
then
probably
down here it says voted unanimously.
In the last 14 and a half years, I haven't seen anything like that.
No.
Okay, I ask that all persons other than supervisors, legal counsel, county auditor, leave the room until we come into open session again, and along with Scott Minders, engineer.
bad we don't have an AI that just automatically switches things back and forth. Push button one and push button two.
Please enter your participant or moderator code followed by the pound key. Please say your name followed by the pound key.
Means you're up now. And you have to announce.
So then you go to number 13.
Let the minutes reflect that we are now back in open session. The closed session has been concluded by agreement of the parties. No matters were discussed other than the issue for which the closed session was taken. No votes were taken. It's a long one. No votes were taken or any other action. There being no further discussion, is there a motion to end the closed session?
Also moved.
I'll second.
A motion Derby and a second from Smith to end the closed session. All in favor say aye.
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 And there's no further action on it for now, so we will go back to our normal agenda.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
Stephanie.
Yeah, you do. Okay, 9:35 a.m. John Torbert, IDDA, to give annual update.
Good morning.
Sorry about the delay.
Certainly, take that seat.
Well, I was glad I allowed extra time this morning driving along and found out that Highway 9 was closed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's an app for that, you know.
I know.
You know, my
Much
maps,
too organized for me.
And it's been going on for what, 2.5 months? I think?
my maps knows these things.
Yep.
It's
Okay, bring you up to date on a few issues that are current with respect to drainage matters. Talk first of all about a couple of bills that passed the legislature this year. First one was House File 714, and this is one that I would call a really big legislative victory for IDDA because it deals with a situation with respect to railroads that came about in 2013 as a result of a Supreme Court decision. So for years, the practice was that when railroad infrastructure and drainage infrastructure met, it was the responsibility of the railroad to pay for cost of repairs, maintenance, improvements in the railroad right-of-way. But the code section that spelled that out didn't use the word drain tile. It said bridges and culverts. And the railroad, I think to their credit, saw that the word drain tile was not used and filed suit and said, well, we understand bridges and culverts, that's clear in the code, but drain tile isn't clear. We don't think drain tile is the same thing as a bridge or culvert. And they sued and they won, and the Iowa Supreme Court basically declared that drain tile was not a bridge or a culvert. So then we had a situation where drain tile became the responsibility of the landowners again as opposed to the railroad. So that decision set, like I said, 2013, so 10 years now. And this year we had a state senator, Annette Sweeney, who's a strong advocate for drainage and a good friend of ours and has spoken at our annual conference in the past, indicated that she'd be willing to take up that cause and try to get the situation remedied. So first of all, we had to get an amendment drafted, which we did, and secondly, we had to find a bill that was reasonably aligned so that you could amend that concept onto that piece of legislation. We found the bill, we got the amendment added, and then we found out that that bill was not going to pass due to some opposition it had. So then we had to find another bill which we did. Got the amendment added to that, and then in a crazy day, all in the course of about 8 hours, that amendment got stripped off, and then it got put back on. And the end result was that the amendment stayed on the bill, did get passed, did go to the governor's desk, did get signed. Very simple thing. All we did was redefine drain tile to include bridge and culvert. Just a definitional change. So that was signed by Governor Reynolds. It is law. It took effect July 1st.
And that includes improvements.
Yes.
So a couple of years ago would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking the same
So
thing.
now we're back to the situation that we had for many, many years, where that clearly is the responsibility of the railroad. I know that railroads are notoriously difficult to work with. I hear complaints all the time when I visit counties about they don't respond to emails, they don't respond to phone calls, we send them notices, they don't, I know. But now, again, for the first time in a long time, we have the law on our side that shows. So that was a big deal. Second bill, I'll talk about House File 711. And this isn't something probably that impacts you all greatly, but something you should be aware of because it relates mainly to levee districts as opposed to drainage districts. But as you know, levee districts are covered under the same code section. And the background of House File 711 is that we had some legislators over on the western border of Iowa along the Missouri River that were concerned that with the number of years we've had flooding over there, that levees were not being maintained properly. And the other part of that is a lot of those levee districts are run by elected trustees. They're not run by the County Board of Supervisors. So the first thing they did is they told Homeland Security to go do an informal assessment and take a look at the levees and see how they were being maintained. So that's an ongoing process. Second thing they did is they created a pot of money. So they put an appropriation of $5 million into the bill, which is from gambling money. And that $5 million creates a cost share fund that can be used for levee improvements. It is cost share, it's not a grant, so there does have to be local money. But for the first time in the 22 years that I've been doing this, we have a state appropriation that is directly going to drainage infrastructure, which I think is a good thing. The second thing they did is formalize the assessment process of the levees, so the Homeland Security Emergency Management is going to look at all the levees on the Missouri River and assign a numerical ranking to them. And obviously the purpose of that ranking is to, I assume, target, the state funding to the areas where it's needed most. The other part of that, which is sort of unspoken in the legislation but talked about behind the scenes, is governance issues. And again, a lot of those levees are run by landowners, they're not run by supervisors. And I think the question is being asked, is that really an appropriate model? Is that the best way to handle those levees? Because some of them clearly have not been maintained the way they should have been over the years. So whether there will be legislation come out of that looks at governance and possibly has those districts being turned over to the supervisors, I don't know. There hasn't been anything in writing yet, but I know there has been discussion of that. So we will be watching for that, and we'll will respond as the membership directs when that happens. So that was the second thing. Next thing I'll talk about is at the federal level. Those of you who have listened to me for a while know that it seems like every year I come in, I talk about Waters of the United States. Hopefully this is the last time I have to talk about it. This is an issue that's been a political ping pong ball. We started out, go back to Bush II, and what the regulation said at that point is that EPA could regulate navigable waters, and navigable really meant that the water had a commerce use, a business use. Obama administration comes in and changes the rule and takes the word navigable out. So at that point, the rule said that EPA could regulate anything. That got challenged in court, and Iowa was one of the states where the rule never went into effect due to the court challenge. So that was Obama, and then Trump comes in, changes the rule again, puts his own version of a rule in, so we've got another new rule, which got challenged. And while that challenge is still sitting there, Biden comes in and says, oh, we're going to put another new rule in, so he puts a new rule in. So we've had these three competing rules, all of which are undergoing court challenges in various ways, shapes, or form. The positive thing to come out of this is that there was a case pending before the U.S. Supreme Court, which was the Sackett case, which came out of somewhere west, Washington, state of Washington, somewhere up there, I think. Anyway, Sackett's were landowners that sued EPA over regulation of wetland on their property, and the case went directly to the point of what did EPA have the ability to regulate. And the other part of this discussion is essentially what EPA was trying to do was they used the concept of nexus. Nexus means connection. And they were basically saying that all waters are connected, so we should have the ability to regulate everything. That, even if you have a pond in the parking lot or a puddle in the parking lot, and that you get rain and that parking lot drains and to the sewer system, and that sewer system goes to a small creek, and that small creek goes to a bigger creek, and that bigger creek goes to a river, and that river is the water of the United States. But since all those things are connected to that river, they should be regulated too. So EPA was trying to use this nexus argument to say that we have the ability to regulate about anything, and what the Supreme Court said was no, you cannot do that. So they basically struck down the concept of nexus, put severe restrictions on EPA's ability to regulate certain waters, and the upside for you all as drainage trustees is I don't think we're going to have to be worried about a situation in the future where you all are going to have to go to DNR and get a Clean Water Act permit to do a drainage repair or improvement. And we can thank the Supreme Court for that. Another thing I'll mention briefly, we have the drainage clerks that meet during the annual conference each year in a breakout session, and last year I was approached by a drainage clerk in another county that posed the idea of why don't we do this twice a year as opposed to just once a year. So I took that to the board, and they said, yeah, go ahead. So we held a second meeting of the drainage clerks on July 20th this year in Fort Dodge. We did not come in with an agenda. We said it's going to be 3.5 hours open discussion. Bring your questions. So I was there, our legal counsel was there, and our lobbyist was there, and we just sat down and had about 3.5 hours of Q&A. on drainage law. And Chris attended the session. And I can tell you, at least from the people that I talked to, everybody was very appreciative that we had done that. I'll talk to my board about it when we meet again next month. But my expectation is that that will become a regular feature of IDDA programming. And we will continue to do that twice a year now. Last thing I'll talk about quickly is when you need an engineer's report on a drainage repair. For years, the law said that if you had a repair that exceeded $50,000, you had to have an engineer's report. And I had a lot of counties tell me that, you know, $50,000 is, you pass that in the blink of an eye. So we went to the legislature a couple years ago and got that changed, and the wording they used, they put in was competitive bid threshold. The good thing about competitive bid threshold is it's set by a committee, it's not set by the legislature, so it does adjust by market condition. So the competitive bid threshold at that point was $139,000. So the level before you need an engineer's report went from $50,000 to $139,000. And I can tell you that on January 1st of this year, that level went to $196,000. So now you can go up to almost $200,000 without an engineer's report on a drainage repair. And I know from what I've heard out in the counties that this is safe. You know, it's meant basically for routine repairs where you don't think an engineer's report is necessary. But certainly if you all as trustees of those districts are in a situation where you're ordering repair and you think it might be a little abnormal, or you would feel better about having an engineer take a look at it, you have the ability to do that anytime. This is just the level when you have to get that report. So, with that, I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Yeah, there's many times that the engineer can coordinate the bidding process, you know, if you're cleaning out a ditch or whatever, and it just kind of gives the volumes, and I think it makes it better for the bidders.
Well, I had a lot of counties tell me that, you order an engineer's report and that's fine, but you're, in some cases, you're doubling the cost of that repair.
Depends on, yeah, we've had some where the engineer did try to put too much into it.
Yeah.
You mean like the Erie Canal down Kasuth County there?
Yeah, I don't know, what we come in about a third of what the engineer's estimate was originally.
His engineer's report was $800,000, and I think the actual work was actually done for $180 or something like that.
Yeah.
Almost 100. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't even 100.
Yeah, they put too much riprap in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
It would have been a hell of a dredge ditch.
So we think that should be, your decision and not a legislative decision. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everything you're doing for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have success in the legislature.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a good team there.
We would have liked the railroad thing a couple of years ago. That would have been beneficial, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We had to have the right conditions.
And then you still had to.
We had to have
a
legislator who was a strong legislator who was willing to take the heat and willing to get beat up by the railroads, which she did, and say, this is the right thing to do and we're going to do it. And then we had to have a team in place that could work behind the scenes to get it done, and we do. So
you got to have legislative leadership down there that believes in it.
Yeah, so when our first bill, we tied the amendment to, when it became clear that wasn't going to pass, we had to find another bill, and we're working hand in glove with leadership on that. They were trying to help us too. So.
Could it almost be argued that a drainage tile is just a long culvert?
Yeah, what's the definition of culvert? Is that open ends?
Yeah.
The drainage tile's open on both ends. Usually
Plus
there's
the
an
intakes and
then there's the outlet. So
Well, the Supreme Court decision that came out in 2013 where they looked at this issue, there were extensive pages and pages and pages of arguments by both sides on what a culvert was. I mean, if you ever have trouble going to sleep at night, that'd be a good decision to read.
So what do you think is the most positive outcome of the decision on the waters of the U.S.?
Well, from a drainage perspective, the most positive outcome is you all can do business the way you have done in the past. The worst case scenario would have been to require Clean Water Act permits on drainage repairs and improvements. And that would have meant you all going to the DNR to get that permit. You can just imagine with 3,700 drainage districts in the state, and
There would have been litigation.
I mean, it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
And you would have been waiting
Costs
probably
would have been astronomical.
6 months to get, assuming that it was routine, and I don't even know that it would have been routine.
We'd be losing contractors left and right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We wouldn't have any competition
With
anymore. We'd have
private
one big
tiles?
contractor.
Private tile, would they have had to do that too?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
You never know.
But I'm not
If
sure.
they would have won, I
Yeah, how
assume
would
that
you-
would have been the next step.
How would you know?
Yeah.
There could have been litigation, and it
Right?
could have really turned into something. That's a
So
good
that's,
thing.
that's the best,
Yeah.
best part of that, yep. And the other really good part of it is it's case law now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have a Supreme Court decision, you cannot have another of this, this ping pong ball, ping pong game that we've had with administrations.
They'll always come up with a different angle.
Well, yeah, I know.
Interesting.
All right, any more questions for John then?
No.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
You do.
Thank you. Yep. Have a good day.
Yep.
Go back. Number 4, consider
Safe travels anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, see you.
Consider for approval equipment purchase for secondary road department. What's the difference between a 308 and a 908? Is that the two numbers? Because the new one was a 908 and you got to use 308?
Let me look up the message you sent you.
Seems like.
Make sure. So this is for that's a typo. 308 is the number that we quoted for a new machine and also this machine. 908s are much larger loaders than
In
the
here,
bigger loaders we have.
in here it says 908 wheel loader on this product purchase agreement. Is that a typo also then? both that you're looking at are both 308?
908. Let's see.
If the new one was a 908, it just seems like the 308 would be something smaller.
Yeah, 908 is the right number. Sorry.
Alright.
308 is a mini excavator.
Alright, so it should have been 908 in the
Yeah.
message. Because everything on here is 908. So.
Yeah, 908 is correct. So I can kind of just read through the message I sent you about this equipment purchase. We've been shopping for a loader to replace the backhoe in Buffalo Center. Its main purpose is to load salt and sand in winter maintenance and does kind of odd job type things in the summer. It's not on projects. This is our second machine we're wanting to roll over from a backhoe to a loader. It's a better machine for the use, we think. For loading salt, the backhoe's got a lot of moving parts up in the front under the hood where salt can spill, and so we have a lot of corrosion issues. But a loader has, front end loader has a little better reach and has
the engine in the back.
Engine in the back. So we think it's going to be a better long-term solution here. So we priced a brand new one, and if you remember, we bought a brand new one a couple years ago. The price went from $102,000 to $128,000 in 2 years, a 25% increase. So I had Ethan take a look and see if we could find a used machine with low hours, and they took a couple trips to look at a few different machines and ultimately found one we think would fit. It's a 2017 908 in loader with 735 hours, with a purchase price of $93,925. It's about $34,000 lower than the new machine. The 735 hours is, I'd say, inconsequential for us. It's not that we use many hours on a machine. In fact, our backhoe that we have now has just 4,000 hours on it, which is about 130 hours a year. It's not very much.
And that's getting some other duties besides loading salt. So.
Yeah, I mean, it probably got a lot more use as a backhoe back 20 and 30 years ago. And that backhoe we purchased for $38,500 back in 1992. We reviewed auction prices for the backhoe, and we think the $15,400 trade offer is a worthwhile offer, so we've elected to go ahead and trade it with this purchase. We have $440,000 in the budget this year, and with the plow truck and chassis, the semi upgrade, the tractor rental, new superintendent pickup, and now this $79,000 for the loader, that pretty well uses up the budget this year. Okay, now that I've refamiliarized myself with it, and the 308 number, I don't know, typo. So I think it's correct in the resolution and the...
Yeah, everything's correct in here, so I could have looked at that and answered my own question, I guess.
I guess my opinion is that if it's in good enough shape that it's workable, you got some work to do on it, don't you?
Yeah, it's got the door was kind of, I didn't see it myself, but the door needs a little bit of work to get it to shut decent, and was 2 or 3 things he said that we could do ourselves with just basically time and maybe $1,000 or $2.
It's different buying something that you're just going to periodically use. You don't put a lot of hours on, and I think it's worth going to use instead of new.
You've got the mini excavator for going around and doing the jobs that backhoe would do anyway, so.
Yeah, that's been a very convenient addition to the operation. This one was just a lease loader for pushing snow, and I think that's why it has some of the little lack of care type of damage, just because it wasn't owned by somebody. Leased for a season or cut for a few seasons just to plow snow.
Well, I guess I'd entertain a motion on approval of the purchase of equipment for secondary roads.
I'll make the motion to approve the equipment purchase for secondary roads.
I'll second it.
The motion Smith and second Derby to approve the equipment purchase for secondary road department of a used 908 compact wheel loader and trading in a 1992 John Deere 310 backhoe. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Don't need a stamp on that?
No, I don't think it needs to be stamped. Remember, I think it needs to be stamped.
No, you got it blocked on there. Carolyn, you want
All right, we'll move on to number 5, Auditor's Office. We'll discuss drainage matters.
We can go to number 7, so we'll start here. Wait.
Do you have stuff to discuss, too?
I
Anybody got anything for drainage?
I don't.
Okay, then we'll
Go past it.
move on to number 7. I assumed it would probably be a quick one.
Okay, good.
Unless you guys would like us to drum up some drainage for you. You sure? Dave Peterson used to love it. Discussion with possible action, change order process for Public Health Addition project.
So, did Gary explain it to you? In the email, he explained it some.
Yeah, in the email I explained it.
Is there already some in the works that they're asking? Or he was talking $5,000 to $10,000 change orders
Yeah,
that would be normal in a process, and sometimes it takes an expedited process to go through that. So I don't know how we want to do this. I don't think you guys wanted the responsibility of making those decisions. You know, out at the nature center, that board make their own decisions. But here, with the ARPA monies, I don't know how you want to handle.
I think with the ARPA money, it needs to be 3.
Hi, everybody. This is Gary Anderson. I'm on.
Hi.
Yeah. The biggest thing, right, Terry, you explained it exactly right. Sometimes there are instances where a quick decision moves things on, other times not so much. Like, for instance, we know that there will be a change order when we remove that concrete rubble, but it's going to be done, and then we'll have a cost. So that's a pretty straightforward one. Other times there are situations where it's a timely manner is important. So if you guys want to have somebody to authorize it, that's entirely up to you. It's just something I always like to put on the table.
Do you think a decision within a week is good enough?
Depending on what it is, I'm pretty comfortable making the decision along, like calling Terry and the two of us. As long as it's something pretty benign, I'm pretty comfortable making that decision.
As long as it doesn't affect the budget dramatically.
Yeah. If it's something bigger, you know, that if we can wait a week and have the board decide on it, that's, you know, I've done that a lot with the roof project, and I've done that a lot with the stone project. I feel like if you trusted me with the roof project and the courthouse, I feel like we can do that with this project and keep things moving so that we don't have to wait a full week to do that kind of stuff. But it's up to you 3.
It's just that this is on such a overly tight
budget.
budget.
Who would have thought that this would have rivaled the cost of the courthouse repairs? But, I mean, as far as those decisions being made, I mean, they're pretty straightforward, and, Terry with his construction background is pretty reasonable on stuff. I think that most of those decisions can probably be made without coming before the board to expedite the process between the two of you.
I'd also recommend that we have input from public health on that decision, at least one person there.
Well,
Yeah.
And I can always give Julie a call.
Yeah.
Because the public health board realizes, I think, that there's, again, the money, it went way over, and have concerns about that, you know. So, yeah, I agree, though, with Terry's construction background and Carla knowing the budget, and with Julie's input, I feel that would be the best.
Where does Gary start? If there's a change order, does Gary call Julie first? Does he call Carla first? Does he call Terry first?
I would say call Carla first.
Okay.
And
And she's going to be more accessible immediately than you might possibly be.
Do you think this process should be solidified by motion for the external auditors? Is she going to have a concern with this, or?
I think that doesn't hurt anything to have that process in a
Yeah, I would
official
assume we
motion.
were gonna make a motion over that.
And are we going to call this a committee of three, of somebody from public health, somebody from the auditor's office, and somebody from the supervisors?
Yep, that sounds good.
And for whatever reason it gets complicated, and it'll have to go before the full board.
Which is every week.
Yep.
Do we put a limit on the dollar amount? $10,000 limit?
Sure. I mean, that's up to you guys too, but
I don't think I feel comfortable with anything more than 10,000 in any one change order without the other two
Yeah,
input.
that's getting to be a pretty high percentage usually, something, whatever that part has been.
If it's more than that, they'll have to wait.
Yeah.
yep.
Well, see, I suppose the motion's gonna have to state that, anything $10,000 and below, can be made, the decision can be made by the auditor's office, Julie, and Terry, as far as,
That's your motion.
kind of a cop
But
one.
public health, because if they can't get me, then they can get
Oh,
else.
yeah,
And-
partly,
yeah.
I guess I meant to say,
I'm on baby class.
oh, all right.
I'll second the motion.
John Bolden, Secretary Derby, to change the change order process to where anything below 10,000 can be, the decision can be made by Public Health, Terry Derby, and the Auditor's Office. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Anything else for that?
Are they digging yet?
You what?
Are they digging yet?
Nope.
Is the tree down?
Trees down.
I saw that it was marked.
All sorts of flags and spray paints and. Yep.
Separate contractor.
I did see yours there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
piece
piece
of
of
equipment.
equipment.
Yeah, piece of equipment there. So.
Go ahead.
As a reminder, we've got a pre-construction meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 at Public Health. And so all of these things, we can bring that, put that on the table, let everybody know. There's some things we just need to go through with the pre-con procedures and things like that. And so this is one of those items. That's great to have ironed out. And then whatever questions the contractor has to get their process going, I'm sure they'll present them. But overall, we're already getting shop drawings. Colors are something that we'll really need to get all the information for the samples and have somebody start making those decisions. But beyond that, it's moving, at least in the backside of things.
All right. I plan on being there tomorrow morning, so.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for doing this. This really helps.
All right. Thank you.
Scary.
You bet. All right. Bye.
Yeah, I think with the timeline of
Gary
winter
Anderson.
coming, it's
Has left.
critical to keep moving on it.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we'll move on to number 8. Unless you guys want us to go back to drainage.
Nope.
Oh, all right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. We'll move on to open forum. Digest that one there. So, anything else for open forum? All right. Then we'll move on to consider for approval county claims.
I'll make the motion to approve the county claims.
I'll second it.
Motion from Smith and second Derby to approve the county claims. All in favor, say aye.
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 You guys sign these two.
We stand adjourned.